Here's your heads up, or what this episode is all about. It's all about the little words that we sometimes don't say. And those little words are, help me, I need some help. And finding the way, the strategies to get that help so you can live the life that you deserve, you're destined to have. And I want you to have it quicker, bigger, better, and as quick as possible. So if that's of interest to you, or that's important to you, to let go of issues, small or massive issues, and live the life you deserve and want and can dream of, listen after this.
Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hey, my friends. We're back in the room. Now, you can see from the title, it says, help me. Well, it doesn't say with exclamation marks, but it says, help me. And I got a feeling that sometimes we're a little bit too proud. Are we proud? Too proud to help, to ask for help when we need it? Or maybe we're just plain stupid, in the nicest possible way, that is, to ask or not to ask for help. I think sometimes some people think it's a sign of weakness. Can't show that. Can't show that, I've got a problem. Something's not working. I'm not enjoying life. Things aren't happening for me, and I really need help. I think sometimes, I know from my very original notes I made for this, is we whisper it. Help. Can you help me? Help. But that voice whispering is even inside. It's not even our true external voice. Our outside voice, as some people call it. It's not even our inside voice. It's our inside voice. Such a shame, isn't it? Because it's like we're in denial in some ways. But maybe because we think we're too proud to ask for help, or we're just got that sign of weakness, and we just don't think that's what people do. People won't help us. We maybe got those beliefs, or maybe we're just not in the right state to ask for help. And this is where I want to get into this, because if you need help, you need help, and that's all you need. Asking for help just works. So many nice people out there. But you see, this is the thing. When you're in an issue, or you're experiencing a negative emotion, or a behavior that's giving you a negative emotion, such as like depression, sadness, guilt, grief, anything like that. You've got that negative emotion. It's in your body. You're feeling it. You're behaving in a particular way, and they just don't feel good. That's not the place to try to give yourself advice, is it? Because you're in the wrong state. You can't ask yourself meaningful questions because you won't answer them properly. You know how it goes. I mean, you try to fool yourself, don't you? Oh, I'm all right. I can get over this. But you're not congruent in that answer. You're not aligned to the answer, because you're trying to fool yourself. And the only person you can never, ever, ever, ever fool is inside. And, you just got to do things, I think, to make things happen. So, who do you ask for help? Who do you ask? Well, I'm going to go through a few different ways. But obviously, I'm going to talk about being a therapist. Not being one, seeing one. I'll talk about that in more detail. But why would you go and see a therapist? You see, a therapist will sit in the side. They are not in that state. They're in the state of, I want to help this person. I feel I can help that person. I believe they can help themselves. Heal themselves, if you want to call it that. And because they believe that, and they're in that state, and it's their job, they're good at it, they can be detached slightly. And because they're detached, they can see when you're not being congruent with the answer. Because I can see it in people, and I'll go, really? You sure? Doesn't sound it. Come on. It's only me in the room. Only me in the room, and it's totally confidential. And that's the thing, it's totally confidential. So it doesn't matter what you say in my little room. It stays there. Disappears once it's gone, but it stays in the room. So once you get that confidence with somebody, you got that rapport with somebody, and you just feel that you're in the right place at the right time, things just melt into insignificance, because then you start to answer those difficult questions. You see, it's similar to when I used to have a friend of mine who would ask me questions sometimes, because he could see. He was very good at seeing when I wasn't quite on my game. Something was up, and he'd talk to me. And I'd go, no, it's all right, Phil, I'm fine. He's going, no, Paul, come on. Who are you bullshitting? Oh, well, it's only a bit of this and a bit of that. He said, no, come on, let's just... And he would ask questions. And sometimes it did feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to deny that. Sometimes answering those questions can be uncomfortable. If you think about it, you're feeling a way you don't want to feel. That's an uncomfortable feeling anyway. So it can't get any worse than that, can it? It's got to get better. But it's just uncomfortable because you have to admit you're not doing the things or feeling the things you want to feel. There's that little bit of pride and stupidity comes into it. But he would ask me questions, and he wouldn't let me off the hook. He wouldn't let me go into denial, as it were, and he wouldn't accept an excuse. He was awesome like that, but he did it in such a way. Yeah, it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I knew I was in a safe place with him. I knew whatever I said wouldn't go anywhere else. And I knew what his intention was. His intention was to support me. And it was, uncomfortable, but in an awesome way. Because each question he asked, because he was in this detached, meta position, looking in and seeing things through a different set of eyes, as they were, a different set of filters. He wasn't experiencing the pain I was feeling, so therefore he could ask the questions that would allow me to let go of that pain. And when I got over that feeling of just being uncomfortable and suddenly realised, well, look, this is going to make me better. This is going to make me feel a lot more comfortable, even though it's uncomfortable right now. I'm only in this little bit of... when you put it on a scale of 1 to 10 of being in pain, it ain't that big really. But with the right person, boom, things get so much clearer. It's as if the whole world lights up a little bit brighter. It's as if, and my clients say this to me, do you know what? I just feel lighter. We didn't even talk about weight, but it used to be like a weight on my shoulders. But now I feel so much lighter in my body. In fact, I feel motivated to do other things now, not just change the way I am, because I'm changing, but I'm motivated, and now I've got a direction. And once you do it once, if it ever happens again, you ask early, and you've got friends who you can trust, and they will do the same to you. So it's not just a case of knocking on their door, hey, I need help. Now you become in rapport with them, in sync with them, and they will probably ask you for advice, and you can do the same to them. Reciprocation. Because you can't fool yourself, and you certainly can't fool that person, that friend of yours, because they know you. And you see, I want you to feel it's okay. It's okay to feel down a little bit with grief, depression, sadness, fear, anxiety. It's okay-ish. I like to just acknowledge it. It's something that you're acknowledging that you're feeling at this moment in time. But you do know if you take action, then it's really okay to start moving on. Just something you've got to learn from. There's always a positive intention. I always talk about there's a positive intention behind and supporting every behaviour and emotion. Just sometimes they're no longer appropriate. And once you get someone to talk to you, you'll see the intention, you'll see, and they'll bring it to mind. Well, that was then, and what have you got now? So I wanted to think about this a little bit deeper, because one of the things I wanted to ask you was, and it doesn't matter if it's a little bit or a lot of the negative feelings, is the suffering worth it? What are you getting from it? If you don't learn from it, what are you getting from it? Absolutely nothing other than pain. And if you learn from it and let it go, what are you going to get from that? Pleasure in all sorts of ways. And I also know those changes, like the ripples of a pebble thrown into a pond, they'll just float into every area of your life. So they'll all areas of your life will change in the positive. So I want to look at two scenarios for this particular podcast. The first one is not a mental health issue. And I do hate that term, but I think we're stuck with it. But it's not a mental health issue. It's maybe you're at work and you're just not getting something. Maybe you're confused. Maybe you just can't bloody see the answer and you're beginning to get anxious about something. or you've got a problem and you don't quite know how to deal with it. And that causes you anxiety. You've got a report to finish and you just can't get hold of the right answer. So that causes you fear, anxiety, worry. How do you get over that? I will tell you. Old Cluffy comes up with the old house. And here's the how-to. You see, what I do is to find somebody who knows how to do it. It's a bit of a flash of the bleeding obvious. But the thing is, you don't ask for help. Because what I find is, and I know a lot of people will always help you, but sometimes it's as if, asking for help. It's like a one-way thing. And I think this thing about selfless service is you do things for others, not expecting a return. But the thing is, you're asking for something. So I ask for advice. Everyone gives advice. They give advice without you asking. So when you ask, and you ask the right person, you're going to get the right advice. So find someone who's good or who has done this before. So it's a flash of the bleeding obvious, but here's the thing. You have to suck it up a little bit because you're going to ask, but you say to somebody with a compliment first, and it has to be genuine. If you're faking insincerity, then you're faking it. But genuinely say, look, I know you've gone through this type of issue that I've gone through or going through, and I know you did it really well. And I watch you go through or doing this thing, and I'm so impressed with the way you do it. You've got so much more experience than me. I wonder, how do you do it? Can you tell me? Tell me how you do what you do. When they tell you, that's them giving you advice. And because they've done it before, it's truth. It's something that you know works. It's not someone saying, well, I've never done this before, but why don't you try this? Because they're in the same boat as you. Maybe they'll give you a hand because they're, again, not in that old emotion. Because that's the thing. If you're in that little problem, even if it's, not the biggest thing and you're just a little bit anxious, or you're a bit confused, that's not the state to be in. So to get out of that, you look at somebody and go, they do these things awesomely. All I have to do is ask, hey, I just noticed you seem to be able to talk to people or do this or do that. And you do it with such competence, confidence. Would you mind telling me? If I bought you a cup of coffee, would you tell me how to do that? Because I've got this bloody issue and I just know that you've done this so many times. Could you help me? And if someone came and asked you that and said to you, you do this thing really well. Can you tell me what you do? Show me what you do. You would say, of course. Now, you might not be able to do it straight away because you can say, well, not now, obviously, because I don't want to impose on you, but maybe a little bit later. And most people actually say, give me 5 minutes and we'll do it. And in fact, that's like mini mentorship, isn't it? A mentorship for me is that selfless service, doing what you can without any sense or want of return. And the thing is that law of reciprocation comes back and bites you on the bum with wonderful qualities because you think you may not be able to pay them back for their mentorship. Yeah, you can buy them a cup of coffee or things like that, but maybe they have more experience than you, so you'll never be able to help them. But you never know because not everyone is good at everything. They might be hiding that stuff as well. So they might come back to you and say, well, I also notice you do that better than me. Can you show me that? So there's that reciprocation. But also, if you can't reciprocate their help to you, reciprocate it in another way by doing something like that for somebody else. Hence that selfless service. You're not doing it for a reason now. You don't for the reason of getting something back. You're doing it for a reason, a good reason. I'm just doing this because I want to help you. And if we all did that, what would life be like? Bloody awesome, wouldn't it? If you know that you just had to suck up a little bit of that old pride and just say, you're really good at that. How do you do it? Been watching. Knowing that people are so nice and kind. So you're uncomfortable just for a moment, but you know that when you get that help, that advice, it's going to be boom again. And you're going to be flying. And then you've got a skill. And every skill can be shared. That integrated field of learning. So maybe you can't teach it up to them, but you can teach it to somebody else before they get into your issue. And how is that going to make you feel? Awesome. So even if, when I said it's, it's just one of those things that happen where we're just a bit confused, but that confusion is giving you worry and anxiety. Such an easy way to feel good. A little bit uncomfortable maybe asking, but it's not really. Now we come to the other part, the mental health issue. And yeah, I don't like that term, but if we are struggling with anxiety, with feeling down, or even depression, if that OCD is getting right on your nerves, if you're fearful, if you've maybe got, you don't want to go out, agoraphobia or agoraphobia, I think you call it in the US. You fill in the blank. If you've got anything like that, which is really debilitating, you've got to do something about it, haven't you? First thing you have to do, though, and this is the thing that I think people forget, you have to be honest with yourself. As I said earlier, you can try to fool yourself, but you bloody well know. You know that you're not firing on all cylinders. It doesn't feel bloody good. It's causing you pain. What are the things? And this is where I think sometimes we just have to sit and think for a moment. And it's not comfortable. I'm going to tell you now, it's not going to be that comfortable. But the second part is really comfortable. Okay, so it's worth going through the uncomfortable to get to the next bit. So first of all, just sit down and think to yourself, how bad is it right now? What does it feel like? How is it affecting me? And how has this been affecting me up to now? What are the things I've missed out on? What are the things I can't do? How is that making me feel? Now, even if you know there's a positive intention, which you probably don't, you don't feel it. When it's pain, you don't feel it or understand it. But I'm telling you, when you get there, you'll find out that there's certainly a positive intention behind this. We just haven't learned from it yet. That's why it's so bloody painful, because we haven't learned. When we learn, it disappears. But just sit with yourself and go, let's be honest with ourselves. Is it a good pain? Well, no pain is bloody good, is it? So just be honest and notice the things. This fear, this anxiety, this feeling down, this grief, this depression, this OCD, this agoraphobia. What's it costing you? Sometimes I know there's a little bit of, we call it secondary gain, which is when I've got this thing, but people start looking after me. So therefore, maybe it's not that bad. But do you really want people to be looking after you? Wouldn't it be nice to have them just as friends? Let's knock that on the head. And just notice, what would happen? Not that it will, by the way. But what would happen if I don't do anything about it? If I don't get some help? What would happen in the future? What would I miss out on in the future? What are the things that I'll be doing which will just cause me pain? Or the things I'm not doing that will cause me pain? Now, all in all, Cluffy, that's made you feel wonderful, isn't it? No, it hasn't. It's felt painful. But that's just reality at the moment, of a sort. Because, here's the thing, I know it'll go. I know you can get help. But it's first of all getting to this point where we're going to do whatever it takes to change. Because when we do and get the will to do whatever it takes, which you've got inside you in bucket loads, you can say to yourself, okay, let's just park that for the moment. Just for a moment, I'm going to park all that bloody pain and stick it in the corner of the room. I'll go for a quick walk just for a moment. Fool yourself if you want. This is the only time I'd say not fake it, but just do a massive pattern interruption. Jump up and down. Stand on your head. Do some star jumps. Go, hey Cluffy, ooh, anything you like. Just to break this pattern. And then sit down with a book, a piece of paper. I want you to write these ones down and say, okay, when it's gone, where's the pleasure? What are my dreams that I'll be doing? Here's a way to look at it sometimes, is to say, well, I'll start that sentence again. Here's the thing you could do. Imagine this. Imagine going to sleep, and in the night, while you sleep and dream, a miracle happens. And that miracle is all that pain just disappears. Overnight, that pain disappears, and you wake up in the morning. How would you feel knowing that that miracle has happened? We talked about being clearer, lighter, motivated, having direction. What would you be able to do when you're feeling confident, competent, when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling in order, when you feel you've got a direction, when you're feeling Happy, for God's sake. Anything. All those positive feelings. What would you be doing? What would you be doing with all those wonderful emotions inside you? What type of behaviors would you be accessing and doing? What are the dreams you've got? How will your work be? How will you interact with people? Your social life. How will the ripples of change make so massive differences in your life right now? And write everyone down. So I'd be doing this. I'd be doing that. I don't want this to mean I am doing it, because can do, but I don't want to set up a conflict. But these are the things, if this was all gone, I'd feel this way. I'd be doing this thing. And if I was doing this thing, it would make me feel so much better. This connection with other people, it would make me feel this, make me feel that. Why is it important to me? Because I'll be able to be free to be myself and fill up a whole page with wonder and then reread it. And as you reread it, feel the bloody feelings that each one makes you. And just go for it. Be like a child with childlike curiosity but creativity. I wonder what else I could be doing. What type of things could I learn? Where would I go? Who would I meet? What type of people? Maybe I'd be going to the theatre, to the cinema, to the library to get books, to read, to learn. Maybe I'd be going to night school. Maybe I'd be going to college. Maybe my work would suddenly explode into wonder. What would that be like? Now, when you get those really good feelings, and you have the will to do, because you will have the will to do whatever it takes now, because you're not going to put up with that old stuff. Maybe you don't know how to do it. And if it's not that massive, go through, say, the back catalogue of this podcast. There's loads of things. You could find things that are going to change you in an instant, if it's not that massive. If you go through those hypnosis tracks, find the one that just changes your state, gets your outcome, deal with fears and anxiety. There's 45 plus there. You can find one or two which will just boom. All you have to do, and I tell this to so many people now because we don't always do it, just before you're going to do it, set your intention, set your state. What are you talking about, Cluffy? Well, if you're going to listen to a hypnosis track of mine or listen to a podcast, just before you do, ask yourself a question. What would it be like to listen to this hypnosis track and learn and feel great, or let go of an issue and feel great when it's finished? I'm going to give this to you, this issue to you, my unconscious mind, to learn from it, to understand it and let it go. What would that be like? And then just do it. And then maybe set your state as being curious or relaxed or calm or expectant. Hope. But I think hope can change into expectancy. Expect a result. Because you're going to get a result anyway, so you can expect a good result. Set yourself up for success. So you can do that. And you can do that whilst you're going to the next step if you have to, which is see a therapist. Now, there are so many people I hear online as well saying, oh, it takes such a long time. I actually heard one person said he's doing a mental health podcast. Can you believe this? He's a great bloke. I love him to bits and how he speaks. I won't say who it is, but he says, I've been seeing a counsellor for 10 years, once a week or twice a week. Well, that's because you like talking to your counsellor. It's not because you're getting the results. Because it doesn't have to take long. It really doesn't. If you've got the will to do whatever it takes and you know how you want to feel, and you find somebody who is confident in their own ability to help you, and they see you as someone who is going to achieve their goal, because that's all they've got to do. They've got to really believe that you are the person who's going to get their goal, and they believe in themselves. You will change in just a few sessions. It does not take certainly more than 5 sessions. It doesn't take a long time. That's just BS. I'm going to give you a real story in a minute to show what BS that is. And some people say, well, yeah. And some people will even say, it takes as long to get over the problem as long as you had the problem. That is so much BS too. You can change in one session when you've got the will to do whatever it takes. You can do. May take 2 or 3. But if you find that right person, it's certainly possible to change in one session. Certainly, you should be changing and seeing a difference within the first session. You really should. So it doesn't take a long time. And the other thing is, what some people say is, oh, it's so painful, you have to go and relive it. No, you bloody don't. It's not painful. with the right person. It doesn't have to be painful. You don't have to go and regress into that old time and feel the old feelings that you used to feel. Feel the feelings that first started this. And maybe that's not the right one. We'll find another one for it, because that's BS too. You do not have to do that. You just have to know how you want to feel and let that therapist get your unconscious mind to learn from that, the root cause. Because once you've got the learnings, boom, the change starts happening. And then they get you to tell your unconscious mind how you want to feel so it can find the resources for you. So it doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't have to be painful. Here's that story I was going to tell you about. True story. Happened quite some time ago. In about my early days of doing therapy, had this lady come and see me. And she said she was depressed. Okay. And she wouldn't quite buy it's just a behaviour, not at that particular time. And she said, I've been depressed for 15 years. Well, that's a bloody long time, that is. So she said, I've now been to the doctors, and they've sent me to the hospital, and I have to come and see you, Paul. Because the reason I've had to come and see you is the last doctor I saw at the hospital said, you have gone through every pill we can think of, every bit of medication. You're stuck with it. That's it. And I'm thinking, well, what happens? You're either stuck with a depression on the last pills that aren't really working, or what? Well, my or what was, well, let's get rid of it then. Because the or what is, well, let's change. And I actually said to her, I know you can tell me how you feel, and she could. So I want to know how she did her behaviour of feeling depressed and being depressed. But we talked about, when was the last time you were happy? And she said, I honestly can't remember. Now, I could understand that. Obviously, she had been happy in those 15 years. She was happily married. But because of the pain of the depression, it tends to just knock them out of your mind. She said, I haven't been on a holiday. I haven't been on a holiday for those 15 years. Her work was such that instead of being like front of house, she said, I go back and do the cooking for people. I do the catering side of it. I don't see anybody. I don't go out there. Even though it's my business, my husband, bless him, comes out and does that work. And he's got a bad back. He can't do it. But he does it for me. We don't go away. I used to drive, but I don't drive either. Just can't do it. So we did some work. First session. She said, yeah, I feel differently, Paul, but I'll let you know. So the second session comes along and we started talking. She started telling me, well, I've been to front of house lately, this last week, and you didn't make me do it. I didn't make me do it. I just felt like I wanted to be there. And I started talking to people. And guess what? Me and my husband have booked a holiday. But we haven't just booked a holiday. We've booked it to go with friends. So I can't not go now because I've booked it with friends. And that doesn't worry me because I want to go. And that's such a big deal to me. I actually want to go. And I said, okay, we just did the second session. And I said, well, I want you to drive home. But your husband's out there, come to pick you up. But I want you to drive home. And she said, I'm not driving home. I said, go on, drive home. Could you drive home? She said, well, I could. I'm skillful enough to drive home. But you'll be watching me. And I said, I won't be watching. I promise I won't be watching. And I couldn't keep my promise because I went up to my office upstairs. I got another office, a clinic downstairs, office upstairs. And I peeked through the window. And although I didn't think she could see me. I think she did see me a little bit. And she got in the passenger seat of the car. And I thought, oh, blimey. Well, there goes that one. I really thought she was up for that. But never mind. And then she came back for a third session. And I looked out the door, because I always go to meet my clients, go outside normally to meet them as I see them come in. And she got out the driving side of a car. And her husband wasn't here. I said, what's going on? And she said, I drove. It's not that big a deal, is it? I said, did you drive home, though, from the last session? She said, I saw you watching, even though you promised. But I knew you couldn't keep that promise, Paul, because you'd want to know what's happened. She said, so we went round the corner, and then I told my husband to get out, come round my side, and I'm going to drive home. And I did, and it was awesome. And all we did after that was 3 sessions. We had one more session, and that last session was about 8 weeks later. So why was it 8 weeks later, you could ask? Well, what she said was, I'm going to go to my doctors now because I'm not a doctor. I'm a therapist. I'm not your therapist, but I'm not a doctor. And we'd always said, look, the only way you come off this medication is to do it through your doctor. You must do that. And the weird thing was, she came back on that third thing and said, the reason I want to, she said, I want to see you one more time. And I want it to be the day before or the day I take my last pill. Because I'm going to come off. She said, because I went to the doctors and said, look, things are going really well. I want to get off these pills. And they said, well, we will work out a way to get you off them, and we'll decrease them and wean you off them. And they said, and when you need them again, when you start to feel down again. And I thought, oh, what a lovely thing to say. But she said, but when they said that, I said, no, I won't do that. And if I did, I've got someone who is going to help me. Someone who's helped me to get off these pills, to change. So I'm not going to do what you recommend, because they were going to go and say, do some CBT and things like that. And that works for some people, but she knew this worked for her. And she said, no, I've got somebody. And all she said was, Paul, can you be my safety net? Because if I've got a safety net, I'm going to be brave enough to do anything. Go on that holiday, do my work, just be me. I said, of course, it's a phone call away. I'll always make sure I've got time for you. Simple as that. And she didn't need that safety net. And she came. One more little session at the end, just to give her that little bit of confidence, but also more about working, about her future, the pleasure of what she wanted. And that's what it is. It's all about finding that pleasure, isn't it? Thinking of that pleasure and knowing how you can bring back being that real you. She never looked back. And neither did you. And now that was a real deep one. And I've got other stories of people who have changed so quickly, and before the change, they were feeling so down. So that's not just a one-off example to me. Not a one-off example to you either. All you have to do is think about, you don't have to think about the pain too much, but I think it's a good idea just to recognize it and maybe just say to yourself, well, you get this one, I wonder what that positive intention is. What are you trying to do for me? Because it isn't working. Because when your unconscious mind gets to understand it's not working, it will try to find a better day and a better way. But when you get that pleasure, it sees what you're doing or what you're missing. And when you look at this and you go, this or something better, and when you experience that pleasure in your mind, when you imagine it, you get to feel safe. And you can say to your unconscious mind, look, this is me feeling pleasure and I'm so safe. Because most of this stuff comes from your unconscious mind trying to keep you safe in some way or other. It's just no longer appropriate the way it's using these negative beliefs, limiting beliefs and negative emotions. And once you can show your unconscious mind, these are the dreams I want. This is how I can be really safe. This is how I can be so comfortable and enjoy life. Now, let's go and find that help. Whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through and not just this podcast, but it ought to be this podcast. Not just through my hypnosis, but it should be through my hypnosis. Only because they're there for you. You're here listening to me. Do that and find other people. Find the one that works with you. And then look for that therapist. And I don't know what number it is because I didn't think about this in this much detail. But if you go through the back catalogue, there's a podcast where I tell you what to expect and what to look for in a therapist. I work with people online. You can work with people online or in person. So because of that, you can always find the right therapist for you if you're in this position. Now, don't worry about that. There is someone there for you. And it doesn't have to be that expensive. You'll find a way. And that's what's going to happen. If you're in this second scenario, feeling anxious, down, maybe depressed, feeling that grief, OCD, agoraphobia, you fill in the blank. But all you have to do is say to yourself, I'm going to get help. Because that's the difference. We're not saying now, help me. I'm going to get help. I'm going to get help. I'm going to change this because I can. And I'm not going to waste any more time. It's not worth suffering anymore. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to make time. I'm going to do things. I'm going to find somebody or something. And as soon as you start doing that and you start concentrating on that pleasure, and this is like a sort of guarantee, keep looking at that page of the pleasures that you wrote down. Just by looking at them and feeling them again is a sort of guarantee. It's like a 90% guarantee. Most people have their issues start to subside now when they look at that day by day. because it's just a different way of focusing. You're now focusing on everything that you want, not what you don't want. And when you focus on what you want, your unconscious mind and the multiverse universe conspire with you, for you, to help you find that thing. So that's when the right therapist comes along, or that's when the right podcast comes along, or that's when the right book comes along, or that's when the right hypnosis track comes along. So, the 90 seconds of hypnosis tracks. Why have I put hypnosis tracks on a separate website? Well, it's so simple really. I wanted you to have them all in one place, so you can look through them all. You can find the particular one you want. I've even made them downloadable, so you can put them on any of your playing devices that you prefer. You don't need Wi-Fi, you don't need the iTunes or whatever. You can put them anywhere you like. You can even burn them onto disk if you want. Where do you get them? Well, there you go. I told you, it's paulcloughonline.com/podcast. If you're worried about your email address, please don't be, because they stay totally safe with me. I only use them to send you out that email and give you access. Simple as that. I send you a link, a special link, so you and only you can access those hypnosis tracks, because I want them just for you. And the other thing about this is you've taken responsibility. I don't want to make these open to everyone, just random. You have taken responsibility to listen and be part of this community of personal development. And I want to help you. I want to help you personally to get your dreams, your goals. And therefore, I'm giving you these tools, these protocols, these paradigms, whatever you want to call them, but in deep hypnosis. So just enjoy. Have more fun than you can stand with hypnosis. There you go. Now, I didn't realise how long we've been talking. This is quite a long podcast, but I think it's been really worth it. I hope you found it worth it. Where do you get those hypnosis tracks? I'll just remind you, if you're new, go to my new, well, not new website now, to my other website. That's not Personal Development Unplugged, Paul. It's paulcloughonline.com/podcast. Sign up and you get access. You get a unique link to all those free, complimentary, powerful hypnosis tracks. There's also on that site, paulcloughonline.com, you'll see the Fear of Anxiety, Let Go of Fear program, or Supreme Inner Confidence program, or there's a couple of special hypnosis tracks there which you can buy. Money back guaranteed. And especially if you're a listener, it's an unlimited, in time that is, money back guarantee. So if you don't get the result, or you just doesn't go with you, what have you got to lose? Nothing. Only your anxiety or your low self-esteem and your unconfidence. And you may just calm down. There's one of those really relaxing hypnosis tracks there. So there's lots of stuff, all to tip you in the right direction. So we get that old metaphor of the domino rally. Once you start thinking about the pleasure, feeling the pleasure, you start knocking over those dominoes. And as they get a little bit more, the momentum gets a little bit quicker. And then all of a sudden, you're moving to those dreams, those wishes, with speed and comfortability. That's a new word for me. Comfortability. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed all of that. If you did, I'd love to ask you to do two things. I'll probably repeat it at the end as well, but just two things. Will you share it? Share this podcast with everybody you can, because I think we all will come to this point in our life sometime or other when we're going to say to ourselves, I wish I found out, and whisper it to ourselves. And we want them to sing it out loud. I've got this. I'm going to do something about this. So you share the podcast and subscribe yourself. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because both of these things makes the podcast that little bit more popular, so it's easier for other people to see and find, which means then we're sharing. It's that, that law of reciprocation. Let's do some selfless service and pass on what we know and pass on what we think might help. That would be awesome if you could. And the other thing you could do, well, your unconscious mind, that is, could do, is, as we always say, what would it be like to surprise their conscious mind, who can just look away for a moment while you, the unconscious mind, begin to surprise them. Surprise their conscious minds for feeling happy for no reason, right now and every day, once at least every day. Surprise them for feeling happy for no reason. And when you do feel happy for no reason, or you did enjoy this, or you got some results out of this, or it made you think, please email me. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know the results. Let me know what you enjoyed or what you didn't enjoy. I'm up for all kinds of feedback and what you'd like to hear even more about. And when you do that, that'll be awesome. And that email will go nowhere else other than into my inbox. That's feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. There you go. Have more fun than you can stand, and I will speak to you next time. It's Paul Clough, wishing you so much happiness. Bye-bye now. If you're suffering from things like anger, excessive anger in your life, too much sadness that keeps recurring and recurring, fear of anything, or just grieving too much about loss, maybe you're jealous, or maybe your self-confidence it's never high enough. Or like your self-esteem, that's never high enough. And it should be. And you shouldn't have to suffer through anger, sadness, fear, grief, jealousy. Do you know what? I hadn't thought about this for a little while, but why don't you come and work with me? Because, I've told you before that I work online, I do coaching, I do therapy online, but I've never really thought about offering it directly to you. So why not? Don't listen to what other people say when they say, things take such a long time, because they don't. 2-3 sessions is generally all that's needed to get rid of some of the biggest problems in people's lives. I see it day in, day out with my clients. So if that's something you can consider, because I do know this, that we always put things off. We put things off, and then we'll go to that bit where we go, oh, if only I did. So here's the thing. Imagine that putting off has gone by, and you've decided to send me an email. An email at feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com saying, hi Paul, I've got this issue. I'd like to work with you. And here's my telephone number. Here's my email address. And the thing is, what would happen is we get in contact over the internet, online. We do an initial consultation. It doesn't take very long to make sure that we're a good fit and make sure you're really comfortable with me. I know you've listened to me a lot, but you really want to see the whites of my eyes. And let me explain how we work together. And if that is right, and it's right for you, and I want to make sure it's right for you, I don't work with just anybody and everybody, only the people who I feel I can really help. Then we'll organise 2 or 3 sessions and get the thing sorted. Okay? So why not send me that email now? Don't think any longer. Stop. Get online. Give me an email. And let's do some work together. If you really are interested in making deep changes, I really always suggest one-to-one. Yes, this Personal Development Unplugged podcast gives you all the tools, but let's get rid of the deep underlying issues so you can really make use of all the tools here. Anyway, that's enough from me. If you want it and you want to let go of that stuff really quickly, and you like me, and you'd like to work with me, then send me that email. If it's not for you, that's fine. Just keep listening and keep sharing. Okay? Anyway, I'll hear from you real soon, I'm sure. See you now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.